It seems that every civilization believes it is different. Doesn't every civilization believe that it is the exception? The Romans believed they were different, as did the Greeks. And the Egyptians believed it too. The Victorians believed it. And today, it certainly looks as though we believe it too. They all thought it would last. But they were wrong. Each civilization looked around at its achievements and quietly assumed it had solved the problems that defeated those who came before. Each believed it had discovered something unique. Each believed it had escaped the mistakes of history. In reality, none of them had. Today, we look at our extraordinary world. Artificial intelligence. Instant global communication. Medical breakthroughs. Space exploration. A civilization, more technologically advanced than anything previous generations could have imagined. And slowly, almost without noticing, we begin to believe something dangerous. We begin to believe that technology has somehow changed the rules. That we have escaped the mistakes that trapped every civilization before us. But be careful, because history tells us a very different story. The greatest danger facing the world today is not poverty. It is not war. It is not even that we have achieved artificial intelligence. It is instead the belief that human nature has somehow changed and, this time it will be somehow different. But we need to stop and remember that every civilization that forgot who human beings really are, eventually paid a price for it. For thousands of years we have changed our tools, our machines, our governments. We have changed our economies and our technologies. Yet the human beings using them have changed remarkably little. We still seek some sort of status for ourselves. It remains one of our biggest goals in life. But look at those other things that have also stayed the same. For example, we still fear uncertainty. We still divide into tribes. We still struggle with greed, pride and short-term thinking. This just serves to show us clearly that, because human nature changes so slowly, history has an extraordinary habit. It keeps on presenting humanity with exactly the same examination paper. Only you could say, the questions arrive, wearing different clothes. Ancient Rome never worried about things like social media. Ancient Greece never debated artificial intelligence. That would have been unimaginable. Victorian Britain never discussed smartphones, yet they made strides with the Industrial Revolution and technology that shone the light on our future. Yet, the one big underlying problem still remained unresolved, which the Victorians wrestled with, just as previous civilizations had done, in a world of scarce resources. How much inequality can a society tolerate before it begins to fracture? What happens when citizens have had enough and lose trust in their institutions and their politicians? What happens when comfort becomes more important than responsibility? What happens when people stop believing in a shared future? These are not modern questions. They are civilization questions. And every civilization must eventually face them square on and take action. The uncomfortable truth is that civilizations rarely collapse overnight. History is not usually a story of sudden destruction. More often it is a story of gradual forgetting, a slow loss of confidence, growing internal division, short-term thinking replacing that long-term wisdom present in every civilization that existed before us. Listen to that clock. Do you hear it ticking rapidly in an empty boardroom? Take a good look around at the quiet government buildings, compared to earlier times. Or at the people walking past one another without connection, looking down at their phones. Citizens become mainly consumers. Leaders begin managing decline rather than planning and building for the future. Stagnation has grim consequences. It's true that the warning signs are almost always visible, long before the crisis arrives. Our past histories are full of people who saw those warning signs and some tried to speak out. But few were listened to. That is why history is not simply about the past. History is humanity's memory. And a civilization that loses its memory becomes vulnerable very quickly. Not because it lacks enough intelligence to even engineer artificial intelligence. And not because it lacks technology. But because it begins repeating those same mistakes it no longer recognizes, or thinks it matters to recognize. And so it loses its way. I'm here to remind you, before we drift beyond the point of no return. Look at the beauty around you. Don't you want to preserve it for yourself and your children? I want you to explore that one mistake that almost every civilization eventually makes. The mistake that appears again and again across the world, across centuries. The mistake that may be more relevant to us today than at any point in living memory. Because I want to be able to walk in our beautiful towns again, to see the sunrise appear over a distant horizon. And more importantly, how recognizing it might help us avoid repeating it, before it's too late to turn events around. Because we need to face this reality. History is not merely a record of what happened. It is a warning. And the past still has something urgent to tell us about our future. Don't ignore it. Look back over time and past mistakes, to allow the past to show us how to move forward safely.